The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. 12 moves, that's all she needed to win, but if she lost, her father would lose everything. Maya's hands trembled over the polished wooden chessboard, the bright overhead light turning each piece into a shadowy soldier. Across from her sat Daniel Voss, the youngest CEO in the city, infamous for crushing competitors and smiling while he did it. Daniel, Lowe, you have 30 seconds. Her father, Ralphie, standing in the doorway in his worn delivery jacket, looked as though the air had been punched from his chest. Maya's eyes locked on the White Queen. One wrong move, and not only would the game be over, the deal that could save her father's job would vanish. So why was the CEO smirking, as if he knew something she didn't? The second hand leapt. Maya steadied her breathing. The room smelled faintly of lemon polish and printer ink. Outside the glass wall, evening traffic smeared the windows with streaks of red light. She studied the board. It wasn't a normal match. It was a puzzle, Voss's exact words. Daniel solved this position in 12 correct moves. Announce mate before your clock runs down. If you're right, we revisit your father's contract. Rafi horse, please, sir. Daniel, palm up. The rules are the rules. Maya swallowed. Her palms slicked with sweat. She had only ever played in community centers and coffee shops. The chessboard here felt heavier, more expensive. The pieces were weighted in the base. Everything in this office had gravity. She traced lines with her eyes. The white knight, the pin on the F-file, the false lure of the cornered king. She sensed a trap. Symmetrical patterns that promised speed but led to stalemate. She slowed her mind, heard her father's cough behind her. The cough that got worse in winter, after long routes in the cold. Maya, whisper, queen to h7, check. She lifted the queen, set it down. The click of wood meeting wood sounded louder than it should. Daniel flicked his gaze at the board. He didn't blink. The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. Daniel, interesting. The clock ticked. 12 moves to go. 3 hours earlier, none of this existed. Maya had been rinsing mugs at the cafe on Brighton and 6th, letting steam fog her glasses when her father rushed in, breathless, helmet in hand. He never came to the cafe on Thursdays. He was supposed to be on the North Route, taking pharmacy parcels to the hospital. Rafi, urgent, we have a problem. She set the mug down. The water ran down her wrists, warm then cool. She watched a coffee ring sink into the drain. Ma, what happened? He didn't meet her eyes. Rafi, contract renewal. Voss Logistics, they're cutting us. They said, we're too small. And there's a performance issue on my file. She heard the capital letters. Performance issue. 2 words that could erase a man's livelihood. Maya, let's go. She untied her apron before the manager could say anything. The manager started to speak, then saw something in Maya's face and stepped back. They rode the bus. Rafi sat hunched, helmet in his lap. He kept rubbing a stain on the visor that wouldn't come out. Maya watched the city slide by, river glint, brick rooftop gardens. She thought about their apartment, 2 rooms, thin walls, the smell of cardamom and motor oil, her mother's scarf folded in the drawer, the rent due in 9 days. When they reached the Voss building, the revolving doors whooshed like a mouth swallowing them whole. The lobby was marble and clean lines, everything soft and expensive and quiet. A receptionist looked up and blinked as they approached. Receptionist, do you have an appointment? Maya set her jaw. Maya, we do now. 5 minutes later, Daniel Voss himself stood in the lobby. He was taller than he looked on magazine covers. Younger too, but his eyes were the same, careful, distant, like a man always inside a mirror. Daniel, Mr. Koresh, you should have called your account manager. Rafi shifted his weight. Rafi, I called. They didn't call back. Daniel's mouth flattened a millimeter. He studied Maya. Something in his gaze slowed when it reached her. Not interest, calculation. Daniel, I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Maya will take 7. His eyes flicked to the chess set displayed in a glass case behind the security desk, ebony and maple. Tournament size, the small placard read, Voss Open, inaugural trophy. Mia, you play. Daniel with a brief shrug. Not much lately, she looked at her father. Then back to Daniel. Maya, play me for the meeting. A laugh escaped a man waiting on the couches. The receptionist's eyebrows climbed. Daniel didn't laugh. He turned, considered the glass case, then her again. Daniel, if I play, and you lose, will you leave quietly? Mia, if I lose, we'll leave. If I win, you look at his file yourself, and you give us 10 minutes. He didn't move for a beat. Then he nodded once, crisp. Daniel, follow me. Now in the office that smelled like lemon and power, the second hand ate away the deal. Maya's mind stayed with the board, but a sliver of it tracked the shape of the man across from her. An expensive watch, a tiny nick on one thumbnail, a barely there scar near his temple, old, well-healed. A person who had fought for something once. He was called ruthless in the gossip columns. People said he fired whole departments with a speech about efficiency and then went to yoga. But the scar felt different. Real. She made another move, a knight. Daniel's hand hovered, then withdrew. He didn't take, he didn't need to. Not yet. He wanted to see if she could see the illusion, if she would fall for the easy path. Rafi, under his breath, beta. Think of the quiet lines. Maya remembered the community center, the clack of plastic pieces, the smell of old books. Mr. College telling her to find the move that didn't draw attention to itself. The move that fixed everything 3 turns from now. She let her shoulders drop, trusted the slower idea. Mia, bishop to a4. Daniel's eyes sharpened. That was the first time his posture changed. He played faster after that. Not rushed, precise. He took the bait she offered on move 7, only to find the trap was for the piece behind it, not the one in front. He flicked a pawn forward and frowned. Barely. 10 moves. 9-8. Her heart pounded so loud she worried it would drown out her father's breath. She imagined each beat as a metronome, keeping time not for music, but for rent, for food, for hope. At 5 moves to go, she saw it. The final pattern, it wasn't flashy. It looked almost dull. It required her to give away her rook, a gift that would sting. She gave it. Daniel took the rook. He blinked twice, as if clearing a mote from his eye. 4 moves, 3. She felt the line hum through her bones, the queen cutting the back rank, the knight sealing a square, the king trapped in little. Daniel stared, then sat back, the leather chair whispering under him. Daniel, very quiet, announce it. Maya's voice when it came was steadier than her hands. Mia mate in 2. The second hand leapt. She made the penultimate move. Then the last, the queen sliding like a blade to jate. The black king couldn't move. Checkmate. Rafi's breath came out, like he'd been held underwater, and someone finally pulled him up. He pressed both hands to his chest. She didn't turn. She watched Daniel, because the smirk was gone. Something else sat there now. A calculation, yes, but also relief. He stood. He extended his hand. Daniel, 10 minutes. Maya shook it. His grip was cool, professional. She expected him to be a sore loser. He wasn't, or he hid it well. He gestured to a small conference table by the window. Daniel, sit. Rafi sat on the edge of the chair as if ready to be thrown out. Maya sat squarely. Daniel opened a slim folder. The folder seemed thin for something that could end a man's job. Daniel, your father's record shows 16 years of delivery, 3 minor accidents, no injuries, paid out of pocket for the second. The third, 2 months ago, close call with a cyclist. That's the performance issue. Rafi's mouth worked before words came. Rafi, the cyclist, ran the light. He cut across. I braked. He was fine. We called it in. Daniel slid a piece of paper across the table. A form. An incident report. It had a signature at the bottom. Rafi's name. Only the loop on the R was wrong. The cross on the T in Kurishi lay too low. Maya, that's not his signature. Rafi leaned forward. His hand trembled. He looked at the loop and sank back. Rafi, it's not. Daniel's gaze didn't flicker. He added another paper to the table, a memo, initialed by an account manager named Lee Hart. It recommended moving the contract to a larger competitor in the name of risk control. Attached to it was a photo. Rafi's scooter parked at a curb. The timestamp was 10 minutes before his route was supposed to end. The caption said, "Chronic lateness." Maya felt heat rise up her neck. Maya, that's outside the dialysis center. He waits 10 minutes for Mrs. Byrne because she walks with a cane. He signed a waiver for the end-of-day drop. Daniel tapped the paper. Daniel policy says no unscheduled stops. Mia policy isn't people. He watched her. Not unkindly. Not kindly either. He was measuring something. Not their worth, their resolve. Daniel, I will investigate the signature and the photographs. Until then, your contract stands as... He paused. The office door opened. A woman stepped inside without knocking. Tall, ice blonde hair in a low twist, a slate suit the color of storm glass. Victoria has cancelled. Victoria Hale. Everyone in the city knew that name. Chief Operating Officer. Known to be harder than Daniel, more patient than any investor, and more willing to pull out a knife where he preferred a pen. Daniel clipped Victoria. Victoria, we have a board vote in 2 days. We need to show decisive action. Her eyes flicked to Maya, then to the chessboard. Her lips tilted, almost bored. Victoria, your vanity matches are charming, Daniel. They do not replace due diligence. Rafi half stood, then sat again. His knuckles were white. Maya calm but tight. Someone forged his signature. You can see it. Victoria, our legal team will decide that. Security will escort you out. She snapped her fingers. 2 guards appeared like shadows separating from a wall. Maya didn't move. She folded her hands on the table. She kept her voice level. Mia, you can escort us out, but you'll do it while I say this in your lobby. She stood. Daniel's eyes narrowed a fraction. Victoria's brows arched just enough to say, "Try me, Maya, I'll live stream it. Full. I'll say your company punishes drivers who wait for dialysis patients, then fake signatures to make them look late. I'll say you fired a man who saved your precious logistics network from a route hack last year by reporting it when he could have sold it. I'll say you smile when you cut throats." Victoria held the edge of the table and studied her, as if Maya were a new software update she hadn't decided to install. Victoria, do you have proof of any of that? Maya opened her bag. She pulled out a small, battered notebook. Its cover was frayed. On the first page was a grid where her mother had taught her to list expenses with tick marks instead of numbers because it made debt feel less like drowning. She flipped to the middle. A date, a delivery code, a note in her tidy, slanted script. Route 3C, suspicious QR reroute, reported by RQ. She looked up. Mia, we keep our own records. Daniel's gaze sharpened. Something in him shifted 1 millimeter to the left, toward her. He took a slow breath. Daniel, Victoria, give me 24 hours. Victoria, we don't. Daniel, it's my name on the contract. Silence. Victoria's jaw worked once. Then she smiled, thin and clean, like monofilament. Victoria, 24. Then we cut. She left. The guards stayed at the door. Daniel's eyes moved from Maya to Rafi and back again. Daniel, I'll need your consent to pull the route logs and the signature archives. Rafi, almost whispering, yes, Mia now. Daniel now. He picked up his phone, spoke into it with a voice that did not invite questions. Daniel, into phone. IT, I want a forensic on the 3C route, 2 months back. Cross-check QR code pings, error corrections, and GPS drift. Also bring me Hart's file. He hung up. For a moment the office felt smaller. The lemon and ink, the wall of windows, the chessboard waiting to be put away. 5. Wie bezes de Nazid, for zo'n wereld, Hooray, fee. Maya watched him, a man whose face had learned to show calm like a second skin. But his hands told the truth. The scar on the temple, the thumbnail nick, the beat of a pulse at his wrist a shade too quick. He stood. Daniel, go home. I'll call you at noon tomorrow. Rafi opened his mouth. Rafi, and if Daniel Noon, he held Maya's gaze, not with challenge now, with something like acknowledgement. She nodded once, took her father's arm. The guards moved aside. The door clicked shut behind them with the sound of something decided. The bus ride home felt longer. Rafi stared out the window at a city that had become a grid of contingencies. Maya watched his reflection. He looked older, not just tired. Worn at the edges by a dozen small cuts, no one applauded him for surviving. After 3 stops, a kid climbed on carrying a cardboard box with air holes. He sat across from them and lifted the lid. A tiny grey kitten blinked out at the world like it was all too bright. Kid, to Maya, you want to hold him? She didn't know why she said yes. She took the kitten. It was warm and ridiculous and soft. It made a sound almost too small to be called a purr. Rafi smiled, a real one, the first of the day. The bus bumped. The kitten tucked closer to her palm, her phone buzzed. A message from a number she didn't know. Unknown, nice rook sacrifice, but you almost missed the bishop bind. DV Maya's mouth tugged at one corner. Maya, texting. You almost fell for the false repetition. MQ dots appeared, vanished, appeared again. DV, noon tomorrow. Maya, don't post anything yet. Let me pull the threads, please. She stared at the please. It didn't fit what people said about him. She looked at her father. He was watching the city, not her phone. Maya, texting 24 hours. Then I go loud. DV fair. She slid the phone back into her pocket and handed the kitten to the kid before she got too attached. The kid nodded like they had made a deal. Maya leaned her head against the window. The glass was cool. Her breath fogged a small oval. She drew a queen's crown in the fog before it vanished. That night, they ate lentils and rice. Rafi watched a cricket match with the volume low. Maya spread papers across the kitchen table, route notes, repair receipts, her ledger. She drew lines. She circled dates. She traced how a person with access could fake delays by cycling a scanner offline for 60 seconds at a time. Just enough to make a man look late without tripping alarms. The apartment smelled like cumin, and while the pot simmered, like cinnamon. Her mother's scarf stayed folded in the drawer. Maya used to take it out when days felt heavy. Now she left it. The scarf smelled like a winter before the hospital. She wasn't ready to open that room. Neighbor's voice through the wall, muffled. Tomorrow? 9, doctor. The building sang its nightly songs. Pipes, distant TV laughter, a baby finding new ways to be loud. Maya breathed in, breathed out, and wrote, tomorrow, noon at the top of a blank page. Near 11, the intercom buzzed. She froze. Rafi looked up. They weren't expecting anyone. Maya, I'll get it. She picked up the receiver. Maya, hello? A young voice came through. Honest and a little breathless. Young voice. Hi, sorry. Is this Mr. Qureshi's place? I'm looking for Maya. I go to the community center. Chess club? Maya frowned. She hadn't coached at the center in months. Not since the second job at the cafe. Maya, who's asking? Young voice. Noor. The name softened something in her chest. Noor was 10, quick-witted, fond of candy that turned her tongue blue. She had memorized openings and ignored all advice about pawn structure. She'd been relentless about nagging Maya to come back. Maya, it's late, kiddo. Noor, I know. I'm with my aunt. She says it's important. The intercom crackled. Another voice cut in. calm, low, familiar from that afternoon, but warmer now, like a coat pulled over cold shoulders. Daniel Maya, it's Daniel Voss. I'm downstairs with my niece. Maya stared at the receiver as if it might change languages. She looked at her father. He raised his hands like, "What now?" "Maya, why are you here?" "Daniel, you said 24 hours. I didn't intend to ring your home, nor beg to see the chess club coach who checkmated me, and I have something you need to see." Maya's heart thudded once hard. She pressed the door buzzer. "Maya, 4th floor. Left." She hung up. Rafi stood, turned the stove off, and straightened the tablecloth for the 3rd time in 2 minutes. Maya wiped her hands, then realized they weren't sticky. She wiped them again anyway. A minute later, a soft knock. She opened the door. Noor burst in first, like a small comet, a backpack bouncing hair in 2 stubby pigtails. She grinned up at Maya like they'd planned this. Noor, beaming, "I knew it was you. I told him you didn't just get lucky." Behind her, Daniel stood in a dark coat, its collar turned up. He looked less sharp, not sloppy, just human. He held a slim envelope. "Daniel, good evening, Mr. Qureshi. I apologize for the late hour." Rafi blinked, then did something that made Maya's throat tighten. He offered his hand like he had earlier, steady, dignified. "Rafi chai." Daniel's mouth quirked. "Daniel, if it's not too much trouble." They sat, Noor at the table, spreading her homework like a conquering general. Rafi poured tea. Daniel placed the envelope between his palms and turned it once, then set it down. "Daniel, I pulled a preliminary report. IT found irregularities. Timestamps that don't match GPS. The signature was forged. Hart's file shows a transfer request to a competitor dated yesterday. She's been in talks for weeks." Maya felt the relief and anger arrive at the same time. They collided in her chest and turned into something sharp. "Maya, so she made my father look late to justify cutting us. Then she used that data as a bargaining chip to get hired by the competitor." "Daniel, that's our working theory." "Noor, mouthful of biscuit, that's cheating." Daniel almost smiled. "Daniel, it is." Maya, so fix it. He didn't flinch. "Daniel, we will. But there's more. The board wants to sell the small root portfolio. They think the margins are too thin. They want to consolidate under one bulk vendor." Rafi shifted on his chair. His knuckles rapped the table once, a small, contained sound. "Rafi will be cut anyway. Daniel, not if I can show a case study. A pilot program that proves small vendors reduce risk, that their local knowledge shortens delivery windows. That goodwill from communities matters when things go wrong." Maya stared at him. "Maya, you want to use us?" "Daniel, I want to work with you. Pay fairly. Run a transparent test, 10-week pilot. If it works, I'll take the numbers to the board. If it fails, we'll be honest. Either way, your father's contract remains valid throughout." He looked at Rafi. "Daniel, and I'll fire Hart in the morning." Noor scribbled on her worksheet and whispered, proud as if she'd solved something too. She thought about a forged signature and a woman who smiled like a wire. They stepped into the elevator. The doors began to close. A hand slid between them. A manicured hand with storm glass polish. The doors opened again. Victoria stepped in, calm as a winter lake. She stood in the opposite corner. She didn't look at Maya or Daniel. She looked at Noor. She tucked a strand of hair behind the girl's ear like she had done it 1,000 times. Victoria, soft. "You are up past bedtime." "Noor, we're saving a job." Victoria's gaze lifted. It landed on the envelope in Rafi's hand, then on the folder pressed against Maya's chest. She didn't smile. "Victoria, good. Then you won't mind if I ride down with you." The elevator hummed. Floors blinked past. 4, 3, 2. The door slid open to the lobby's pale light. Footsteps echoed. Security glanced up. The night guard's pen paused mid-scratch. Victoria stepped out first. She turned. Her voice stayed soft, almost tender. It was the voice of a person petting a dog before it bit. Victoria, one more thing. Hart submitted a statement an hour ago. She claims she acted on your father's instructions, that he asked her to falsify time logs so he could help dialysis patients. She names him as the instigator. Rafi rocked back as if slapped. Maya, that's a lie. Victoria's eyes finally met Maya's. Victoria, prove it before 8 a.m. She walked away, heels tapping like a metronome counting down. Daniel exhaled. For the first time since she had met him, the calm cracked. Just a hairline. Enough to let a shard of worry through. Daniel, low. We have less than 9 hours. Maya felt the weight of the folder in her hands, the chess rhythm in her blood. Maya, then we need to find Lee Hart. She turned to Daniel. He turned to her. They both turned to Noor, who beamed, unaware she was repeating history. Noor road trip, the doors whooshed open to the cool night. The city breathed. Somewhere a siren wailed. Somewhere else a couple laughed. Maya stepped into the dark with a man who owned the company that could end her father's job. The girl who still believed winning was simple, and the father whose name sat on a line of typed lies. The car unlocked with a chirp. They slid in. Daniel started the engine. They pulled out into the street. And as the headlights washed over the wet black road, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo of a clipboard, a blurry signature, and 4 words that made her pulse stutter. Unknown. You're in over your head. She stared at the screen, felt the cliff edge at her feet. She raised her eyes to the night windshield. Maya, under her breath, watch me climb. The city blurred past in streaks of sodium gold and wet asphalt. Maya kept the phone angled so the others couldn't see. You're in over your head. The words pulsed like a warning light. She glanced at Daniel, one hand on the wheel, one on the gear shift. Eyes forward, calm on the surface, jaw too tight. Rafi sat in back, gripping the envelope like oxygen. Noor had dozed off against his arm, mouth open, little starfish hand on his sleeve. Maya slid the phone into her pocket. She'd show Daniel, but not yet. First she needed to know, was it a threat or a test? Daniel Hart's place first. If she's not there, her storage unit. She keeps everything. Maya, you know where she stores things. Daniel, everyone who's ever tried to leave, leaves breadcrumbs. He took the turn on green. Tires whispered over rain. The wipers beat a slow clock. Lee Hart's building smelled of bleach and old smoke. A sleepy doorman lifted his head, and then let it drop when he saw Daniel. Money made people polite or invisible. Tonight it did both. They rode the elevator. Maya's pulse thumped in her throat. She knocked on 7B, silence. Then a chain slid. A tired eye peered through the crack. Neighbor, she moved out at dinner. Boxes, a black SUV. Man with a jaw like a stapler. Daniel, did she say where's? Neighbor, storage, world on Kent. Unit number, dunno. But she dropped this. The neighbor held up a plastic key tag. Store WLD 9124. Someone had scrawled a smiley face next to the numbers, then crossed it out. Maya will return it. Onesie Mili, Sonia News. Thank you. Back in the hallway, Noor tugged Maya's sleeve, bright-eyed again, because everything after midnight felt like a movie. Nor is this a quest, are there side missions? Maya, soft, just one. Get the truth before sunrise? They ran. The elevator felt like it moved through syrup. In the car, Daniel typed with his thumb while driving. Maya watched the scar on his temple catch the dashboard light. Maya, where'd you get that? He blinked, almost laughed. Daniel, a teenage idea of invincibility. Bike messenger, van door. Street 1. Rafi, you were a messenger? Daniel, one summer. I liked the speed. I still do. It's the only part of my day that feels honest. He slid the phone into the console. Daniel's security camera at Hart's garage shows a plate registered to a shell company. That shell belongs to Lennox Holdings. Board member Lennox. Maya frowned. Maya, so Victoria isn't alone. He nodded once. Tight. Daniel, she rarely is. Storage World glowed in teal neon. The unit stretched in corrugated rows like a metal cornfield. They parked by the office. A vending machine hummed. A camera watched with a red blink. Daniel held up the key tag. The night clerk didn't argue. Money made people invisible, polite, and fast. They walked the corridor to 9124. The metal door rattled. Nor stuffed her hands in her hoodie to keep from touching everything. Daniel, low, Maya. If Hart's inside, let me talk first. Demur, v'manyenjian vi, Thor. Maya, if she runs. Daniel, you're faster. He lifted the rolling door. Lee Hart stood by a stack of banker's boxes, a duffel bag at her feet. Her eyeliner had smudged into half-moons. She held a flash drive like it was a lifeline. Lee, I knew you'd come. Daniel, because Victoria doesn't knock. She erases, and you perform. She laughed a little at that. It sounded like static. Lee's eyes slid to Maya. They hovered on Noor, who was peeking around Rafi's leg like a small detective. Lee, you brought witnesses. Maya, we brought truth. Lee's chin lifted, defensive, then sagged. Lee, and who brings protection? A shadow moved at the end of the corridor. Boots, the stapler jaw. He stepped into the humming fluorescent light. A second man ghosted behind him. Fixer Ms. Hart. Ms. Hale would like her things. Maya felt the text in her pocket heat up by memory. You're in over your head. Daniel, cool. You're trespassing. Fixer storage units in our company's name. He held up a paper. It looked official enough in the uncertain light. Maya, Lee, I didn't sign that. Daniel, you keep saying that. He turned to the fixer with a bored expression, the kind rich men used when they were about to be very dangerous. Daniel, you're going to leave. Fixer, I'm going to do my job. Daniel stepped forward. The air chilled a degree. Rafi shifted Noor behind him. Maya didn't think. She moved to Lee's side, lifted her phone, and pointed it dead center at the fixer's face. Maya, clear, we're live. They weren't. The little red dot wasn't red. But the man flinched. Even predators hated light. Fixer turned that off. Mia, say hi to 50,000 followers. He hesitated, ran numbers in his head, risk versus bonus, and clicked his tongue. Fixer to Lee, you're making mistakes. People who feed the wrong wolves get eaten. Nor piping wolves don't eat people. Mostly. The man blinked at her, confused. Then he backed up. Fixer, TikTok. They withdrew like a tide, but left the smell of cold air and threat. Lee swayed. Maya held her elbow steady. Maya, you okay? Lee, no. She looked at Dan. No, and now she signs. And now the stamp goes boom. And check. She stopped next to a puzzle board left out from earlier that night. Black to move. Mate in 3. She tilted her head. No. It looks like you can take the queen, but that's a trap. Maya glanced over as she wrote. Mia, can you prove it? Daniel, yes. If I can get into the server logs. She grabbed the printouts. He grabbed his coat. Lee pocketed the second flash drive. Mr. College shoved the notary stamp into his cardigan like a talisman. They were halfway to the door when every light in the room died. Maya glanced at the alley walls, bricks stacked like chess ranks. The SUV blocked the mouth, but halfway up the left wall, a fire escape ladder dangled just out of reach. Quiet lines. She heard her father's voice in her head. The move that fixed everything 3 turns later. Maya, we moved the pieces. Daniel approached, offering his hand. Daniel, you saved more than your father's job today. Mia, we saved your company from itself. Nor tugged Daniel's sleeve. Nor next time we play chess, I'm winning. Daniel actually laughed. Daniel, we'll see.